Welcome to Becoming Fearless, the personal growth podcast for you if you are ready to overcome fear and step into your greatness. Our purpose is to help you overcome your limits, have loads of fun along the way, unlocking your fullest potential in life, business, health and relationships every single day. I'm your host, Charlotte Carter, a high-performance coach and entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience. I've supported many highly driven, talented people like you who dream big and are ready to take action to overcome what's holding them back. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing hacks and habits on how to build self-belief, courage and confidence to master your mindset and navigate your emotions so that you can reach your human potential in a way that feels light, fun and easeful and helps you become fearless. Let's go. Welcome to another guest episode of Becoming Fearless. I am really excited to bring this episode to you, and I just want to let you know before we even start that there's going to be more than one episode with me and this particular guest because we have various things to talk about. We are both evolving, our friendship evolves, our business evolve, and she is a super great friend. So I couldn't just limit it to just one episode because there's so much goodness around all sorts of aspects of high performance and becoming fearless. So in this particular episode, we're going to take a deep dive on life and understanding yourself through the lens of strengths. And then in future episodes, we're going to do a whole different perspective. So definitely tune in. If you like this one, definitely come back and see other ones that I've done with this fabulous guest. So let me let you introduce yourself about who you are and what you do, and then we'll get straight into the episode.
Hello. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello.
So I'm Marjan. Hi, I'm Marjan Mahoutchian, and I'm a culture coach. I specialise in supporting teams and individuals, leaders that are experiencing change and trying to navigate themselves and transform through those challenges and the opportunities that come through those changes so that they can sustain personal and collective growth.
And you are really talented at what you do. And we met together on a global mastermind that we were both in. And we both went in there possibly around 2021, I think. And then have been in each other's worlds in various guises since and have formed like a really great friendship. We've been in spaces together for a little while now, and Marjan is somebody that I will always reach out to when I want clarity on something that's coming up for me that's sometimes fear-based, but sometimes it's noticeably strength-based and I'm not in alignment with my strengths. And we actually did that this week. But let's go back to kind of like let the listeners know a little bit about your background and what brought you to what you do now, so that people get a flavour a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so likewise, Charlotte, you are absolutely a special confidant in my life as well, and a very good mirror, and have been a very good mirror for several months, and several times I've come to you, and it's been great to get that sucker punch that you need sometimes.
Yeah, the gut punch.
So the gut punch. So I actually have a 20 plus career in corporate, and predominantly working in very highly regulated environments, which obviously, as you know, are quite usually fast paced, but also very restricted. And through that period, the 20 plus years, I had various roles: qualified accountant, I worked in law, but a significant part of that time also I worked in business transformation, so supporting the organisation change through corporate and business development. So it could be any kind of change that would take place. So it's either internal changes or changes that would change the external market as well. I'm a certified Gallup Clifton Strengths coach, and I embarked on being a Gallup Clifton Strengths coach shortly after I left the corporate world to focus on my own business as a coach. I'm also ICF accredited, ACC coach, and for me, the coaching piece was really about supporting people. I had a huge, I guess, change in my life through coaching, and I know the massive impact that it had for me. And I just wanted to be able to do that for other people, but also people who do, work in corporate spaces. Mostly because we tend to hide who we are in the corporate space. But not just that, also outside of that, it's recognizing that we are a whole person. And for me, really getting to the depths of who we are as people and what drives us to what we do, and how we interact with other people, and the decisions that we make, where they come from, became really, really interesting to me to continue, as I had a lot of exposure to that anyway in the corporate space.
And I think what you've touched on there, I think people that are in the corporate space, I know I've got a lot of clients that come to me that want to either leave the corporate space and move into entrepreneurship, or they're in early stages of entrepreneurship at having only been in the corporate space. So they've brought this kind of corporate culture, should we say, for want of a better word, of getting up, hitting the gym, going and working all of the hours, going out drinking in the evening, and then repeat on the next day. It's very full on. Very intense, very fast paced. And when they drop into entrepreneurship, for some of the people that I've met and worked with, they're like, this whole identity piece comes up, which is something we'll touch upon on another episode, because today I really want to talk about this Gallup Clifton Strengths. So if people haven't heard of this, I first came across it when I was training to be a positive psychology coach. It was something that I was given like the top level information about, and sort of go away to learn a little bit more about it. And I know that Marj and I have had various conversations, and I understand a lot more about what it is. But if people have not heard it, can you just give them like a top level of what the tool, a summary of the tool?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gallup Clifton Strengths is a positive psychology tool that's based on research of over 70 plus years, and probably closer to 80 now. And it's really there to help you identify. So yes, it's a psychometric tool, but actually it helps you understand how you innately think, feel, and behave. And this isn't about putting people into a box to say, oh, you're an introvert, or you're an extrovert, or you're, a particular colour. What this is actually there to do is to help you understand, as I said, those natural ways that you think, feel, and behave, those innate ways of being, and what actually it is about us that makes us unique. Now, there's 34 themes that are part of the results. If you go for the full 34 results, you can also just obtain your top 5. And these results are based on the answers to your assessment answers, right? So you'll go through an assessment, you'll answer many questions that are of varying statements, and you choose a statement that's closest to what feels right for you, and then at the end of it, it produces your results. Now, your results are obviously very unique to you. There's a 1 in 33, 34 million uniqueness about you. So there's only 1 in 33 million people who have the same strengths in the same order as you, and which is obviously very, very unique.
Yeah.
And so what you would do with this information really is where the nuggets are. It's really where the real power of understanding strengths is important. Because I mean, I'm sure there are many people who have taken psychometric tests, various psychometric tests, and they've looked at their results and they've gone, oh yeah, okay, great, all right, this is great, and then they put it in the shelf and they put it away. With Clifton Strengths, it's not about that. We really want to understand these results, because we can actually set up our lives with this better insight into ourselves. Now, the people think they know who they are and what they're about, and yes, we do to some degree. But it's only when we're thrown into certain situations that we then are challenged with a new way of having to be. And it's only when we're put in those situations that we then have to kind of dig deep. well, actually, what we're able to do here with understanding our strengths and discovering your strengths, it can really play a pivotal role in building fearlessness in your personal growth. Primarily because we're looking at it through several interconnected psychological and emotional processes. So it's when we understand ourselves, we will be able to build the confidence and resilience and the mindset to face and manage those challenges and opportunities a lot more effectively. I'm going to take a pause there because I could talk on.
I know. And I'd love you to, but if I put it in context a little bit for people that are listening, in kind of my experience of the conversations that Marjan and I have had in terms of my strengths and how they have affected, very much so, how I have shaped the business and the lessons and learnings that I've been able to navigate through by knowing my strengths in such a unique way to me. Because for me, there's been obviously the element about Marjan and I know each other as friends, but with her extra knowledge of all of this detail, I was able to kind of like piece together parts of how I was going to shape the business where it actually played to my strengths. So my top strengths for listeners is futuristic. So I absolutely love hanging out in the future. I love planning for the future. I love saying to people I can see where they're going. I have all these abilities to be able to hang out massively in where people are going. It's a big part of my high performance, a big part of what I do one-to-one with people, and it's a big part of why people come and work with me. And my second strength with that is strategic. So as well as knowing where they're going, I have the plan that they don't know. I have the plan of exactly how they're going to get there, and how they can do all of those things. Now, all of that kind of lights me up. When I work one-to-one, that shines in so many ways. But when I've brought out various group coaching programs, they've all been really successful and transformational for the people that have been in them because of what they've said to me at the end. But for me to hold like a program that's got a limited number of spaces on it, or a limited time, or a limited progression that people go through certain modules, it didn't play to, when I looked at my top 10 strengths, it didn't play to all of them. It was actually limiting me. It was limiting me in so many ways. And I couldn't see that for myself because I knew that the people in the spaces and in the programs were actually getting the results. But for me, it wasn't energizing me, and I wasn't performing at my best or in the way that I can really make a massive difference because I wasn't aligning to these top strengths. Do you want to add anything on that?
There's so much in what you've just said, which is extremely powerful, and it's all it's the whole reason why this whole strengths thing exists and why it's important to understand. So you touched on there around the fact that actually what you were focused on was supporting and delivering results for other people in a way that is structured in a way that is potentially quite similar to maybe how other people might do it. It's structured in a way that doesn't necessarily, as you say, align with yourself. Now, what we do is we get ourselves sometimes in life, we get ourselves in situations where we're conditioned to just keep going. We're conditioned to look at the external and how we can get results in the external world. What we fail to look at as we're doing that is actually looking at ourselves in that process, because we're a large part of making that external shift happen and take place. And so we're so focused on the outside part and we're so focused on those people looking in that we forget to actually look in ourselves. And that's why, as part of understanding these strengths, it's so important, because you really then get to understand, well, what do I actually need here to make this successful? What do these boundaries need to look like? What do these conditions need to look like in order for me to be able to successfully create this product or this service that I want to offer? Because we're so focused on the outside that we forget to look in. Actually, there are many conditions that exist in our day to day for various different goals and objectives that we have, that we just go through daily life without thinking about what those conditions are until we're forced to look at it. Well, why wait till we're forced to look at it?
Exactly.
Let's take the opportunity to understand ourselves at much more depth so that we can actually be more strategic about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. And I think what happens as high performers and what happens for me, and I will always on this podcast share my real story, is that these clients, and many of them will come on and do episodes with me, they've had phenomenal results. So as a high performer, I was like, well, I'm delivering. They've got phenomenal results. They've got exactly what they needed because our strengths was futuristic. I could see what they needed. I gave them what they needed. So it's like, why are you changing? And I had so many people say, why are you changing? Why are you changing? Why are you changing? And I think for so many people, this bit is where you've got to be fearless. Because you can keep doing, and a lot of people do this, keep doing the same thing because the people are getting the outcome, but they lose themselves in it. And it ends up being something that they churn out, and the people come in and their passion's gone, and they know it works, and they may be getting the cash for it, but they've lost all of their passion, brilliance, enthusiasm has been dampened. And so this energetic space is not being met. And that was kind of like the space that I was in, and I kind of got a massive gut punch from Marjan this week. We're like, hang on a minute, we need to get in a more expansive, it needs to be more dynamic, you need to create something that you feel more fun, you need to be able to create a theme park we talked about, and those kind of things, because that aligns with me. The person that I took as well to meet with Marjan, there's no way that would align with her. There's no way in any shape or form, because her strengths are very different. She's a very different personality, and you have to build your business around what makes you uniquely brilliant.
Absolutely. And so going back to what you talked about earlier on about, people shifting, some of your audience and shifting from corporate into the, entrepreneurial space. I was in the corporate, as I said, for 20 plus years. I was very successful. I reached places that I didn't think I would. I kept going. Actually, I say I didn't think I would. I knew I would. I was always had this kind of self-assurance about me that I would do it. I think the challenge that I had was that I was successful, but I didn't feel it. So I was always chasing for the next thing. I was always working myself up and building myself up to get to that next thing. On the external, I was very successful. The results I was producing, very successful, in the same way that you talked about yourself and what you've been doing through your programs. It works. If it's not broke, why fix it? Well, actually, the thing that does need to shift is the thing inside. And so it's very normal for people who come out of corporates to into the entrepreneurial space to continue with those conditions that they had in the corporate space into the entrepreneurial space. But guess what? The environment's different. Everything is different. The way you spend your time, the decisions that you have to make, the relationships that you're building, everything is different. So those conditions will change, and they have to change. You're no longer that 9 to 5. You're no longer having to prove to anyone else. You've done the proving. Now it's all about generating those results in a way that also feels good for you as well as your clients.
And I think
so.
Go on.
Yeah, please.
I think what I found working with so many people that have come from that space is that's where their personal growth starts to happen, because they've been so conditioned. It's been so status led in some ways, so performance led in some ways. They've not necessarily been identified as their true self in that journey, and then they drop out the other end with all this passion about what they want to do, and then they're faced with sometimes money mindset stuff going on, sometimes how they're going to structure the whole boundaries piece, the whole self-worth piece. Everything comes out because it hasn't actually had an opportunity in the space that they've been in prior to that. And so it's a whole big steep becoming fearless learning journey where the easiest way and the easiest path is to try and create what they did in corporate. So then they build a business that's just got the same conditions that they left, and they again may be very successful, but again they're still lost, don't know who they are, got no internal peace, no internal satisfaction, have lost the drive for life, and then think, have I done this again? So it's really important to know these inner pieces around what makes you tick, what makes you stand alone, what makes you real fired up, what makes you connect with your values and your purpose and your brilliance, what absolutely massively energizes you, and then just build that. If I'd have heard myself say that 4
Exactly. So
years
what
ago.
is it that well, look, the reality is we're always going to come across a situation in life where we need to look at ourselves again. Okay, so it's not a one and done. We will come across many situations, and that's the whole point. We're constantly transforming. It happens, and particularly as high performers, we're always looking like for the next thing to step up. And just going back to that word that you said is what energizes you. That's exactly what this whole strength thing is about. It's what energizes you, what really gets you passionate and excited about. Doesn't mean you're going to have the mundane. You're not going to have the mundane stuff. You're going to have the mundane stuff. They're going to have to be done, right? But predominantly, you create the kind of life that you want through a better understanding of yourself. And so, when we do look at strengths, we increase our self-awareness and confidence. So when you understand your capabilities and your talents, it will naturally boost your confidence. And this confidence then empowers you to face those challenges and uncertainties with a lot less fear, because you trust your ability to navigate through those situations and overcome them. No, it doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes in life. Obviously, we learn from those mistakes, but that's what they become. They become learnings. They're not mistakes. We develop the resilience through understanding our own strengths. We cultivate a positive mindset because we're less focused then on the things that we're bad at doing, on our weaknesses. I mean, you'll often hear people talking about, what they're bad at before they say what they're good at. But through understanding your strengths, you do cultivate this positive mindset, which does enable you more to focus on, those positives, and that then encourages a more proactive approach to life. Whereas, fear is less likely, in that situation, then less likely to take root. When you understand your strengths, it makes goal setting more effective for you, because you can align your objectives with those capabilities and the interests that you have. Understanding your strengths can reduce anxiety and stress, so you're less likely, as I said, to dwell on your weaknesses or things that might go wrong. It's so easy when you start business, but also even later on in business, when you're making these big decisions about what you're shifting. If you think about what you're currently going through, Charlotte, thinking about what you might potentially change, it can be very easy to focus on what might go wrong and all the negatives. But actually, when you understand your strengths, you're less anxious and stressed, because you're more likely to approach the situations with calm and a fearless mindset. And therefore you feel more empowered to make those decisions, and those relationships that you build with people. You approach them, and you nurture those from a place of understanding better the type of people that you want to have around you as well, right?
Yeah, for certain. I think for me, kind of the conversations we've had in terms of like how I can understand my strengths more. One of the things that's really led for me is, and something I talk about a lot, which is inner trust. You have this extra toolkit, that you can draw on, that you actually can kind of like bounce your own ideas off. So it's like, okay, if I put this out there, oh no, it's not necessarily going to be in these spaces. I'm not necessarily going to play to my strengths. I'm then in the space of playing to what my audience want, which is the path I've been on. What do my audience want? And when you're multi-talented, multidisciplined like I am with various tools, I can always deliver what different people want in different guises. That's part of the challenge for me. So when I bring it back to myself and look at these strengths and look at actually where's the energy, what's the energizing and where's the trust, then without a doubt, I can see super clearly it's really easy because I step into my futuristic and strategic for myself. And I can see very clearly, okay, this lights me up, like the podcast lights me up, this lights me up, this is how I can do it, this is how I'm going to shape it. I'm not going to look at anything else. I'm just going to look within and look at these strengths and couple them with this whole empowerment of trust in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust is foundational for any relationship. But let's start with the relationship with ourselves, right? We need to be able to trust ourselves before we even think about trusting other people. If we can't do that, then we've got some serious problems. So trust is a massive, massive foundation for what anything that we want to achieve. If you think about some of the famous people in life that we see in the public eye, let's take. I'm going to take Oprah Winfrey. I know she's kind of been in the public eye for a very long time, but let's just take her as an example. What she's done is she's created a life and she's created a business for herself that aligns with entirely who she is. She's not trying to be everything to everybody. What she knows and what she's done is she knows how to connect with audiences. She knows how to bring people on a journey. She knows how to really make people feel what's going on. Now, that's really powerful. For her, it's all about that connection, that people connection. So I don't know if you know, like she first started off as wanting to be, I think, a news anchor. And she was, I think she was declined at some point in that period. They said, oh, she couldn't be good, she wasn't good enough, etc., etc. Anyway, she then went away and thought, no, I know what I need to do here. I know what I want, and she went out and did it. An author, TV, obviously has her own TV talk show,
Yeah.
Films. All of those relate to how she connects with the audience and takes people on a journey. So what she's not tried to do is be this well-rounded person. What she's done is she's created, she knows herself, she trusts herself, she's, focused on what she does well, and she's gone out and created that. And that's what you were talking about earlier on. When you trust yourself, you then know that you can lean into the things that energize you and will get you to the next place that you need to get through. The futuristic, the strategic. But let's not forget some of the other ones that you have, right?
Yeah.
You've got 32 other strengths. The bottom of your strengths are your lesser talents, and they're the ones that you wouldn't necessarily focus on. So a lot of people, what they do is when they get their reports, they look at the bottom first. Oh, what do I not have? What am I weak at? And actually, that's the bit that you don't really need to worry about unless it's necessary for for the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. But in that situation, where you do find that you've got some weaknesses and you need something to be done that kind of isn't for you, that's where you bring other people in. That's when you say, right, actually, I'm not that person who can connect with audiences through my words, and therefore I'm going to delegate that job to create my social media, to create, I'm not saying this is me, I'm just saying that this is an example, to create the messaging that I need to put out there to somebody else who's a lot better at putting those words together than I am. You delegate those jobs. It might be that you're not particularly organized. You delegate those jobs to somebody else. So you use other people's strengths to bolster your own.
Can we just touch on one of my other strengths? Because I think my audience will love this one, because it's something that I work with a lot of people on. And I think it's maybe number 7 or 8, I think. I'm not quite sure. And it is focus. And I work with a lot of people who come to me, and that's their primary outcome of what they want to work with me on. They're like, I'm scattered, I'm all over the place, I can't seem to focus, I've got my energies flitting, all of this kind of thing. And I have a lot of people that I work with on that area, because it's a topic that I find really interesting in myself. So I have the huge ability to hyper focus on something that I want to do, and in massive detail and in massive depth. And I also have this great ability to have all of the thoughts at the same time, and let's move in all of these different directions. Can you just talk through a little bit, just in relation to me, because everybody who has focus will have it in a different pattern, and obviously, everybody sees it differently. Can you just give the audience a flavour of that kind of strength and how you see it in me? Because I think other people may resonate with some of the patterns of that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for touching on that point. So people's strengths will show up very differently. So your focus will show up differently to somebody else's focus. And generally what we'll see and what we'll tend to find is that your two of your strengths can actually work quite well together, and they'll be working together at the same time. What we need to be aware of in ourselves is that our strengths will help us, and they'll also hinder us in some ways, because they will get in our way, right? So focus, the generic definition that Gallup provides in terms of focus, is that people exceptionally talented in the focus theme can take direction, they follow through, and they make the corrections necessary to stay on track, right? They know how to prioritize, and then they act. So what you described there about yourself is resonates with you when you need to be hyper focused, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that will show up differently for some people. Now, for someone who has focus lower down, it doesn't mean that they lack focus. It just means that the way they prioritize, the way that they create focus, is in a different way to someone who has it higher up. So more often than not, what you'll tend to find is, like I said, if people see that they've got, let's take focus as an example, at the bottom, they'll think, oh, well, I do focus, like I'm really good at focusing. And then it might be, yes, that might be the case. You might be good at focusing. However, how is it showing up for you? Because you're actually, you're using your other strengths in order to stay focused. So for me, for example, I have achiever at number 2. And I have a responsibility at number 5. Now, achiever is someone who really gets, enjoyment out of ticking things off a list, and just, powering through actions that they need to do. So they're constantly keeping busy. Responsibility, on the other hand, is someone who takes their responsibilities very seriously. So they are committed to the promises that they make. Now, you can imagine these two strengths kind of work really well together, because what I do is I say yes to doing something. I've got it on my radar to do it. I've made that commitment to somebody else to do it, and therefore I will do it. So I'll just press ahead. That obviously helps me get focus.
Yeah.
That helps me get focus because I'm using my other strengths in order to do that. I've made a commitment. I like to keep busy. I've got a plan. I'm going to go ahead. My focus is slightly lower down. I can't remember where in my strengths it is, but it's slightly lower down than yours is. But that's how people can understand themselves better in terms of how it is they operate and how they create that focus.
So we could continue this conversation. So I'm sure you have, as you've been listening, or I hope you have got a flavour of the depth of of what this tool gives you. It's a an assessment initially that will give you this order of your strengths, and that's where the assessment bit stops on the paper, and the actual implementation, anchoring, and integration of yourself with the strengths is where the work really starts. So how do people get hold of doing this kind of thing, or is it something you offer? Or if people are listening and they're going, I need to get my hands on this, how can they get hold of you for you to do this?
Yeah, sure. So they can contact me at marjan@captivatecc.com, or they can look me up on my LinkedIn, which is Marjan Mahoutchian. I'm sure it'll be written out on your
It will.
on your podcast details. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, anyone can go onto the Gallup website and purchase the assessment. That they can do that. That's not a problem. There's also a load of other coaches out there that Gallup Strengths coaches that do the debrief. But I do offer a package to support someone who has taken the strengths. I also offer a discount on the code. So please get in contact with me if you do want to discover more of your strengths. I want to put it out there that discovering your strengths doesn't erase fear completely, but it definitely equips you with the confidence and the resilience and the mindset to face and manage your fears more effectively. It's about knowing that you have the inner resources and the abilities to handle whatever comes your way. So if anyone is interested in working with me, by all means, please drop me a note and I would love to hear from you.
Fabulous. And yeah, like Marge has just said, the whole premise of Becoming Fearless podcast is that we allow ourselves the space and opportunity and courage to walk alongside fear. So fear never goes. What your strengths do is that it allows you to feel quite literally stronger within yourself, your mind, your body, your energy, so that as you navigate where fear shows up more or less, you will always be able to carry on taking those steps. That's the whole point. Another one of those fabulous tools that we can have that's unique to us, and we can understand it more and more as we navigate different fears and as we up-level our life. So all of those details that Marjan spoke about will all be in the show notes, so you can go and follow her on LinkedIn, catch up with her, book a call in if you want to have this deeper dive part of the whole journey in terms of Clifton Strengths, because I know for me, as a high performer, I did the assessment. I was like, great, can somebody now explain how I'm actually what it actually means for me? I know for me, was a massive part. I was very fortunate to have Marge in my world, and I would highly recommend having this kind of extra debrief opportunity where you get more bespoke guidance of how they actually impact you in your personal life, in your business, in your relationships, in your health, in all these areas. And you'll start to see for yourself, oh yeah, here, you'll start to see where they show up in different guises. So I am super grateful for the time you have spent. I will ask you on this one, and I will ask you on our other episodes, about a book that you have read that has helped you either in the strengths journey or has helped you in navigating how fear has showed up in your life.
I'm going to go with the Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, and that stands out as a remarkable personal development book for me for several reasons. At its core, the book shares the author's journey, his own journey, that illustrates the really profound impact of letting go of fears, letting go of personal preferences, letting go of attachment to outcomes, and instead surrendering to the flow of life. This approach obviously leads to unexpected experiences and opportunities, and what it does is it showcases the real power of openness and trusting in yourself, and trusting, what the universe might be unfolding for you. So that, for me, I would say, is a really profound book that has been a huge part of my journey.
That sounds a really interesting book. So, as always, all the book details will be on the links as well for you if you're like, oh my goodness, I'd really like to. I've got to learn to let go. As high performers, it's a big thing, letting go. So, it sounds like that is a great book. Thank you so, so much for your time. I have loved hanging out with you as always. I can't wait for us to do our next episode, which we will do in a couple of months. So watch out, listeners, for future episodes. I think there's probably going to be a bit of a stream of them.
Thanks so much for having me, Charlotte. It's been so fun speaking to you, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
You are so welcome. So take care, listeners, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that you're feeling energized, fearless, and inspired to take action today to stand in your greatness. I share even more tools and resources on my I Dare to Leap email newsletter. By signing up, you not only get early access to the I Dare to Leap products and services, but you also get brand new podcast episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Monday, meaning you'll never miss your weekly dose of becoming fearless energy. Sign up now at www.idaretoleap.com/newsletter or click the link in the show notes below.